swing cheaper.
The Limestone County Board of Education Board meeting is called to order. Notices for the meeting were properly posted and provided to those who requested direct notification. Let the record show all board members are present except Ms. Fuqua and Dr. Herring. We'll begin with a prayer which I will lead, then a pledge, followed by a pledge led by Ms. Kilgore. Bow with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight and ask forgiveness for our many sins, Lord. We ask that you guide us through all that we do, that we keep you on the forefront of our mind, watch over our students and faculty, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, we have an agenda before us. Do I hear a motion?
I'll offer.
Ms. Kilgore offers a motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. Hilliard seconds. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to abstain from 7I1.
7I.
I'll go ahead and do that too. 7H2.
7H2.
H.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from 6A, 1 and 2.
Could we change to let me know who's voting? Dr. Herring, we're about to vote on the agenda. Do you have any comment?
Does that count? No, I do not have any comment at this time.
All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We're gonna start with the budget. 2 feet in.
Are we?
2 feet in.
Are we all ready to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You know, I have a statement I have to read every year that the state provides, and then we'll take a deeper dive into it, and if y'all have questions as we go. So I'll kind of go over, at first I'm gonna go over some of the things that are in the budget, that have been put in the budget this year. Some are the things you guys have approved, but I kind of will let you know, just do a little reminder to let y'all know what's there. And then we'll go through the PowerPoint, we'll talk about the departments inside the PowerPoint, and if there's questions, we'll go through those. So first, a complete hard copy of the budget packet has been made available here for public viewing and to AEA, and the board has also received their copies. But if you want more copies, let us know by leaving your email address with Sherry, and we'll be happy to get you a copy. After the second hearing, the information will be available on the school system website. This is the first of 2 required public budget hearings for FY 2026. The board will vote on the approval of the budget immediately following the second hearing, which will take place September 9th at 6 p.m. The budget is due to the State Board of Education no later than September 15th. The board welcomes your input, and all questions not answered tonight should be submitted to me or the superintendent in writing on the form provided in the budget packet up here in the box. Every effort will be made to address those questions at the second hearing. If we look at the budget preparation and process, local school budgets are prepared at the local school level and entered by the school bookkeeper and reviewed by the local school accountant at the central office. Departmental budgets for non-salary items are given to directors. The directors meet with me and Dr. Sherrouse to discuss needs and to review their budget for the upcoming year. The general fund accountant inputs the directors' budgets, and they are reviewed by me. Staffing needs at each school are reviewed, considering units earned, special education needs, available federal funding, and projected enrollment for FY 26. And staffing numbers were assigned accordingly. The FY 2026 capital plan will be compiled by the superintendent and will be on the next board agenda and will then be reflected in the budget. Federal budget allocations that have been received are included, but some of these have yet to be confirmed or received, and they will be added before the second budget hearing if we receive those. If those are not received, then they go in the budget amendment. Sometimes those are a little late coming out, and so usually we'll base it on the prior year, and when we get the actual number, we'll change it to actual. They usually don't fluctuate that much. The board has committed to maintain 3 months fund balance, which we have attained and will maintain with the proposed budget. Only 1 month of fund balance is required by the Alabama State Department of Education. State revenues were based upon allocations and local revenues were estimated based on current year receipts. Some federal revenue allocations have been received, like I said, and they're reflected herein. And then there's an explanation of the budget documents. Y'all get that packet every year. Inside that, there's a cover sheet. There's a vision and mission statement. There's budget information and a glossary of terms that's provided. There's an allocation breakdown. So there's a sheet of the ADM in each school and what their ADM was and what the foundation was based upon. And that's in the unit breakdown. There's a B1A that it's a proposed budget. Then there's P1A and P2A reports, and these are total expenditures per cost center. So that breaks each cost center down based on the way the budget was allocated. So you'll see one for each school, then you'll see one for all the pooled cost centers. And those pooled cost centers are transportation, maintenance, central office. They're those type of cost centers where we're not like, I'm not allocated to just one cost center. I'm in a pooled cost center. My girls are in a pooled cost center. Supplemental information are projected numbers. The state generates these forms, and they're in there. There's one for each school, and there's a total page. So you can see the allocation per each cost center, and then you see a total sheet. And on that total sheet, you have to go and add all employees per each school, and then you have to add the employees that are in the pooled cost centers to get to the total. And those are just projected numbers. And there are projected enrollment numbers as well for the number of students, and those were pulled this morning. Amanda Hardiman pulled those numbers and went over those with Dr. Sherhouse before I put those on each page. Salary schedules, there's proposed salary schedules in there. Those salary schedules are for each position. There's no changes to those salary schedules this year. Teachers, there were no raises given this year by the state, so those are basically what they were last year. The salary schedule will be here to be approved by you guys next week. And if there's any little changes on there, for instance, one change is double bus routes to go from $25 to $30 per double bus route. So that'll be included in there. But when we get ready to go over that, I'll go over that and tell you guys exactly what's been changed and what's in there. But there's not a change to actually salary schedules per steps for employees. Okay, so now we're going to go into the PowerPoint. We're going to take a deeper dive into it. But before we start flipping pages and talk about things that's in there, I wanted to tell you first, Alabama Connections got an increase this year. Their enrollment went up. So that the increase for Alabama Connections was about $6.1 million just in their foundation. This year, there's $30,000 to each high school, like there has been an amount given to each high school every year. I think we started at $15,000. This year, it's $30,000 per high school for sports and band, and that's a total of $180,000. There is a talk to increase coaching supplements and other supplements that are on those separate pages that talks about football, club supplements, and those things to increase those 25%. But the cost for that total is about $49,000. So it's not that big of an increase, and it's hoped to incentivize people to be our coaches and to do the other things for us. There's new positions in there that the board has already approved. And in those positions, we'll talk about the RAISE Act tonight. There's new positions for the RAISE Act, and that's our STEAM teachers for our elementary schools. That's going to cost around $350,000, but that's going to be covered by the RAISE Act in the poverty section of that. There's some SPED positions in there that the RAISE Act is actually giving special ed more money this year. So those positions that you guys have already approved will be covered by the RAISE Act. They're around $800,000 of the $3.2 million total. EL. This year, EL, we used to see our EL, which is our at-risk, on our foundation report. It's not on there anymore. They have included that in the RAISE Act fund, so they just shifted that over to supplemental money, so you won't see it on the foundation sheet, but you see it inside the RAISE Act. So the positions for that, we've got some instructional assistants, And I think there's an EL teacher on here that you guys have already approved, and that's around 289,000. So the total positions that you guys had approved that are in the budget are 3.2 million. But a majority of those positions, 3, 8, 1.1, about 1.5, 1.4 million of that's going to be covered by the RAISE Act. So that's not all foundation money at all. The next thing I wanted to talk about is PHIP has not increased since I've been here. It's been back before that. So the allocation for each employee is $800 a month. It's been $9,600 for each employee since before me. And they made a decision the state has increased it this year, and it's gone to $904, which takes it from $9,600 to $10,848 per person. So that's an increase of $1,248, which equates to about 13% when you go back and divide the numbers. We've got new buses in there this year. A little over about 850,000 is going to be covered by fleet renewal. The other half will have to be covered by the general fund, as it always has. Buses went up this year. They're $1.7 million for our 11 buses this year. So we saw them go up a couple $100,000 from last year. Now, if we can get all those buses, when we order all those buses, you know, that's kind of been a challenge every year. You order the buses, you don't get the buses until they can get them made. You guys, for the past several years, have put $500,000 towards our furniture budget to help our schools replace some of their furniture. That's in the budget again. For the past several years, we've also put $50,000 for our student workers, and we do have, I know Karen showed me a folder this morning of our students that we have that are doing like the teacher in training, the work-based learning and all that. She had a stack of kids she had to enter, which I always think is a good thing, and we've got $50,000 allocated for that. There's 2 trucks this year, one for transportation and one for maintenance, and that's been an ongoing process for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years to replace the older trucks. And we needed 4 driver's ed cars this year. So 4 driver's ed cars are about $125,000 to replace those. So Russ had communicated the need to Dr. Sherrouse about that, so it's included in the budget. So you'll have to also know, in FY25 is when we receive our Advancement of Technology funds, and they were a little over $17 million. So they're budgeted this year in our expenditures because we have to spend the money this year. So it's going to be sitting in our fund balance at the end of the year. There's going to be $3.2 million sitting in the general fund of that, and the remaining $13.8 million is going to be in the capital projects fund. So the revenue was budgeted in the FY25 budget amendment, but the expenditures are budgeted in FY26 because I got the memo that the money would be deposited now. So we'll go ahead and get the money, and then we'll spend it in FY26. I mentioned the double routes to go from $25 to $30. We're still going to keep, it's budgeted to keep 1 permanent sub for each schools. I know the schools talk a lot about how they have appreciated having 1 permanent sub on staff to help out where the need is. The RAISE Act, I've got the RAISE Act in the budget. You'll see that it might move a little bit because Allison emailed principals and she got principals' inputs for the RAISE Act money because we wanted to be able to put the money where the most need was. So inside the RAISE Act, there's a poverty section, and that's almost 1.5 million. There's a special ed section. It has to be spent between Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It's 1.1 million. The at-risk, the English language learner section has went from the foundation I told you over to this, and it's $427,000. Gifted also moved over from foundation into this supplemental allocation, and it's $267,000. So that's kind of a summary of capital plan. I mentioned that earlier. That will be on the next board meeting. Dr. Sherrouse and Steve have talked about that. I think Dr. Sherrouse has talked to you guys about the capital plan. So that'll be on the next board meeting because it has to be approved before the end of September and submitted to the state.
It doesn't have to be presented twice.
No, that is not required to be presented twice. Just the budget has to be presented twice. All right, so let's go to the PowerPoint and let's look at the total revenue, the proposed revenue for FY26. So if we look at between each fund, if we look at the general fund, the total projected is $158,364,895. And on the next page, we're going to talk about state and local and federal. The special revenue fund is $8.4 million. Inside the special revenue fund is federal money. There's local school money inside there where we pull local school money into our financial statements. And there's also CNP money that sits there. The debt service fund is $5,056,710. That is the PSF, the public service funds that the state gives us that goes towards our debt. Anything above that, we can spend it on other allowable things, but it is used for debt. Capital Projects Fund, we've got $6,841,491,000 in revenue. $6 million is the sales tax that moves over to the Capital Projects Fund. The $841,000 is the fleet renewal money that we receive for the buses. The fiduciary fund, which is local school money, is $1,062,808. That gives us a total of $179,754,895 for our total revenue.
Where's the interest earned? Where's that at?
It sits in the general fund under local revenue.
So it's in the general fund.
Yes, ma'am, it is in the general fund. And I pulled out FY25, our original budget, and on the last year when I did the presentation, and it was $169,512,019. The majority of that difference is the increase in foundation in ALCA, and the RAISE Act funds gave us an additional 3.4. Now you'll see when we do budget amendments that the money's going to go higher. We're going to project more. That's for grants. That's other state monies we get through the year that we don't know about when we do our original budget. Advancement of technology money. We don't know about that when we do our original budget. So there's things like that, and that's what you see. If you look at our total, the next page, our total budget revenue by source for FY26, our state revenue is $131,220,370. It was $122 million last year. That number comes strictly from the state, and we're going to talk about that number on the next page. I've got a slide for that. Federal money for right now is $4.1 million. Like I said, we will be adding the allocations to that as we get them, hopefully before the next budget hearing. Local revenues $44.2 million. Other revenues $198 million, and it totals $179,754,895.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The page you sent on last Wednesday that had this page, it had our total at the state level at 127,859,128. Did something happen to change it?
The RAISE Act money.
So that's what the difference.
It's the RAISE Act. It's exactly the RAISE Act money. And I was going to tell you that, but it has the RAISE Act money in it.
$3 million.
So $3 million was added to revenue. The $3 million was added to expenses. Okay, if we go to the next page, this is our LEA allocation. This is what comes from the state as our foundation money. You can see there's a comparison from 26 to 25. You can see salaries went up $2.4 million. That is from the state uses our LEAPS report. So it looks at all our employees based on their step, degree, and so they will increase it each year for a portion of that, as well as Alabama Connections went up. Their ADM went up, so there's more money right there. The majority of that money is from there. If you look at our fringes, they went up. Same thing applies. The majority of that fringe benefit is from the insurance going up 13%. going from $800 to $904 a month. And it went up to, it's $10,848 total. So they told us that for all of our units, that was covered in the fringe benefits. Other current expense went up. The amount per unit was $25,225, so we went up $2.3 million on other current expense. If you look at classroom instructional support, teacher materials went from $900 a unit to $1,000 a unit. Technology, library enhancement, PD stayed the same per unit as it was the year before. And they did not fund any common purchase this year. Last year was the first year they had funded common purchase since I had been here, and it had been, they said, a long time since that had been funded. But the other thing that is in the budget this year is the state only funds $1,000 per unit based on the teacher units that they fund for, based on our ADM report. But we have money in the budget this year to cover all our certified units, whether they're a foundation unit or not. You might have resource teachers or other that don't get that because they're not a foundation unit. So it's in the budget this year that if you have students in front of you, if you're teaching students, you will get that $1,000 for your classroom instructional supplies. Textbook money went up $47,000, not that much. If you look at student growth, the original allocation last year for FY25 did not have a number, and they still don't have it on the report for student growth, but they had to go back and fund student growth. It's a little over $300,000. That was the majority. That was ALCA's money, and they just missed it, so they went back and funded it. If you look at the student growth this year, it's $781,000. That's ALCA's growth as well. How the state funds that is, they fund that at $7,547 per unit. But if you are a 100% virtual school, you only get 20% of that per unit increase. So they get $1,509 per unit, and they grew 518 units. So they got it's $781,869. So our total foundation program is $121.3 million. The local funds foundation program, which is the amount we have to match of what they give us with our ad valorem tax, is $9.2 million. But since we share with Alabama Connections, I do an allocation each year to divide that between us and them, and they share in that amount of the local funds that we match. So that's a snapshot and a look at that page. So let's go to the next page if y'all don't have any questions, but if you do, I will certainly do my best to answer those. Are we good?
Well, tell me what you mean when they share. They share in paying a portion, or they share in the amount we're getting?
No, they share in the portion of local funds that we have to match based on the amount they get in foundation money and amount we get. So it's basically our part plus their part, and it's prorated, and we share in the 10 mil match that way.
Isn't it close to $3 million?
It's around $3 million. I can actually tell you, I've got the sheet where I've calculated it.
Okay.
It's $3.6 million for them this year. And that was through a recommendation of the state when we started doing this back in 2018. If you look at highlights of state funding, if you look at our school nurses, they're at $1.7 million this year, and that's an increase of $48.5 million. Technology coordinator is $71.6. It went up $1,989. Transportation went up to a little over $6 million. It increased $434,000. Fleet renewal is $841,491, which y'all saw on the budget in the capital projects fund. Capital purchase that we get from the state is $5,056,710. At risk is sitting in the RAISE Act this year that we talked about. Career Tech O&M is $139,000. That increased $24,500. And the RAISE Act is the $3.3 million that's new for this year. Do y'all have any questions about that? Okay, now we're going to look at the general fund revenue and the capital projects fund, local revenue. So let's talk a little bit about how we get to these numbers. So what I do when we estimate these numbers, and I always talk to Dr. Strauss as well, I'll go back and I'll look at, we're still in the middle of 25. So we haven't collected everything for 25 yet. So I'll go back and look at 24 and see what we collected. I'll look at 25 to date and see what we collected. And I'll go back and look at 24 and I'll say, okay, if I'm taking a snapshot and I'm looking at this at the end of July, what did we collect in August and September of last year? To be able to estimate and see if that's in line with what we've already collected this year. So for sales tax, for the 52 and the 93 penny, one is our lawsuit penny, the other one is our 1 cent penny. We've got 24.5 million. The 5.5 mil ad valorem, that's our 5.5%, that's 5.8 million. Our 3 mils is 3 million. Our TVA in lieu of tax is 2 million. Ad valorem under 778 is 1.5 million. So the 5.5, the 3, and the ad valorem under 778 makes up the 10 mils that we're required to collect. We can only collect that the state requires. Connections Academy, we get 3% of the funds that go to Alabama Connections, and that's 1.3 million. And Dr. Mabel's, the interest on the money market is here, and it's estimated about 3 million.
So when did we start getting interest on the money market?
20. It was in the middle of 24.
Some part of 24?
Some part of 24 is when we started getting that.
Will we see an appreciable jump in local revenue at whatever point that happened?
We would have saw an increase in revenue. In 24, we really didn't know we were going to do our money market at that time. And then we did see, because this year we're already, by the end of this year, at 25, we think we'll have around $3 million in money market revenue.
We budgeted about exactly what we got in 23 and 26. So we're seeing no difference in the number. In the local revenue.
You said something about general fund, local revenue? I don't know if it's a separate.
In capital projects, I'm going to go back and look at
We
20.
start breaking out all the things that's in general fund.
We will. I don't know if she clumped it together, is what I'm saying.
So this year we've got 44.2 million in local revenue. In 23, we had 37.5 in local revenue budgeted based on my
What
sheet.
we actual was 44.22, according to what you sent me earlier today.
Was 44.22. That was the year we ended up at the end of the year when we went back and calculated. We got extra revenue for the lawsuit penny. We don't budget that money every year because we don't know how much of that money we'll get or if we'll get any. Now, as great as sales tax revenue has been to us lately, yes, we will probably get some of that revenue, but we don't ever count on that revenue and put it in the budget. So that's why in 23, you see 44.2 million, and we only budgeted the amount that you said.
I guess I can't see a $3 million increase in the numbers anyway.
Well, if you look at some years, as far as local revenue, there's a difference in local sources between special revenue and expendable trust revenue, because you're looking at local revenue from C&P, where they do their daily a la carte sales, and you're looking at local school revenue, inexpendable trust, and special revenue trust. I'll be glad to go back and analyze it all for you if you'd like. I know you've looked at it as well, but that's usually why you see a difference. And then also when you get to the end of the year, you also have all the advancement of technology money that comes in, that has for the past several years. But as far as local revenue,
Local revenue?
no, that's in state revenue.
Okay.
But in local revenue, the majority of the difference is some of the additional sales tax that we get at the end of the year that we don't include in the budget. Okay, if we move on to the next page, we're gonna look at the proposed general fund budget. So if you look at instruction and instructional support, it's 124.6. If you look at operations and maintenance, it's 11.9. Auxiliary services, which is your transportation, is 7.4. Administrative, which includes the board, the superintendent's office, the finance office, the human resources office, and public relations is included in administration. The other includes our legal fees. Anything else that doesn't fall under one of the other categories up there is in other. Other is copier leases, telephone, water, utility. All the small things are included in other. Other fund uses is transfers from like general fund. So that's transfers of like the instructional supply money, the technology PD, all that money that goes out to local schools. And it's also debt payments that have to come from the general fund and go into the debt service fund to fund our debt. And we're going to talk about debt when we get on into the presentation. So salaries and fringes of the general fund equate for about 80%, 86% of our budgeted expenditures, and that includes the ALCA pass-through. If we look at operations and maintenance, it's up about 11% this year, and we're going to talk about what that is. So in salaries and benefits, it's $4.2 million. You have to remember that it's got the steps in there as where people increase the step, but it's got the insurance in there. So it's 13% right there. Utilities and grounds is $3.1 million. Building repairs, maintenance, insurance, furniture, anything that's not in the capital projects fund that Steve and his guys have to do is included in that number, and it's $3.4 million. So insurance is in there of $800,000. There's a truck there. The furniture is there. You know, the board does the garbage for the local schools and the pest control for the local schools. Floor machines, it's included there. Utilities increased 5%. And some of the other things that are in there that is not in the capital projects would be some fencing at various schools that has to be replaced. There's some intercom systems that come up that have to be replaced now because they're getting older. That's in there. And there's some digital signs that need to be replaced. So that's the operations and maintenance budget. Auxiliary, which is our transportation, is $9.1 million. The major budget items for that is salary and benefits. It's $5.8 million. You've got fuel, parts, and supplies for our transportation department. That includes, it's in the transportation and the ETF funds. Diesel fuel is also in there, but our diesel fuel usage has went down this year. So we saw that go down based on what we had budgeted. That's $1.1 million. There's 11 new buses at 1.7. They were 1.4 last year. Insurance for our fleet is $170,000, and 4 driver's ed cars and 1 truck is $190,000. Okay, we'll go to the next page. This is child nutrition. So the major budgeted items for child nutrition is salaries and benefits. That increased for the insurance. It's $3.1 million. Food and supplies have increased about 5%, and that's $2.6 million. So the total child nutrition is $5.7 million. So we're going to look at general administrative. So that's where you guys are included. Dr. Shrouse and his staff is about the same as it was close to what it was last year. We took a look at his budget. There is $85,000 in there as it has been for local schools discretionary for the superintendent. The board management, which includes your salaries and travel and other things for you guys, including legal fees, is $364,000. We did, based on looking at legal fees for this past year, we increased legal fees $50,000 to make sure we were covered. If you look at business support services, that includes, the finance department is 1.5 million. We've had an increase in computers, how much our software cost. We had to do an upgrade this year. Postage has gone up. Some of the insurance things we pay for and other things, the copiers and things like that's gone up, so that's 1.5 million. Human resources and their administrative services, again, they've had programs go up, so it's $756,306. And public relations has got some advertising and supplies in it, and that's only $17,000. So the total for that's 3.6. So now we're going to talk about debt. We always like to talk about debt if we hear our debt going down. I know Dr. Maples likes to hear about our debt. So if you look on this page, and you'll see
Hear about
down.
it going away.
Well, I've got a little comparison at the bottom for you. If you look at the line that says qualified school construction bonds, that's our QSCAB. That was the state bonds. They came into existence before me.
That's our what?
It's called QSCAB. It's qualified school construction bonds, and I've always known it and learned it as QSCAB. So it was on the books when I came. It was a bond purchase that the state offered, and you were able to get construction money for that. So we've made payments on that over the years, and that is going to retire during 26. And there's only, if you remember, if you saw this, and you may not, but the interest on this has been like $114,939 every year. That's just something I remembered because it was a weird number. So at the end of this year of 26, it's going to be gone. So I was going to give you a kind of, let's look at, our debt service for the year is 5.9 million, but I wanted to go back and kind of take a little snapshot of where debt was and how far we came with the debt. So at the end of 19, it was 73.1 million. You know, in 2020, we refinanced some debt, got rid of some debt. At the end of 24, it was 59.3 million. And at the end of 26, it'll be 43.4 million. So it will have came down from 19 to 26, $30 million. A little over $30 million.
What that guy would give us as a percentage of
I
that?
know he told us that percentage, but
What do you
I
say?
can't remember the
Should've
exact
written that
percentage,
down
yeah,
that day.
yeah.
Yeah, well, we were not doing good. We got our finger,
in the day.
we got our finger wagging on
Yeah,
that one.
but, so the great thing about that is,
Thank you.
if we remember, all the capital projects we've done, all the improvements for our schools, everything we've done, we've paid for it. We've been able to pay for that. We've not had to go to the bond market. We've not had to borrow more money. I think the last buses, we borrowed money for buses was in 2020. The only reason we didn't pay those off when we refinanced the debt was they both closed at about the same time, and our Raymond James guy said, well, you're not going to get a better rate than what y'all got on those buses. So those buses they're trickling on down and almost paid for. So I
What was
wanted
it?
to share that
What'd you
because
say was in 24?
24 the debt was 59.3 million. And at the end of 26, we'll be at 43.4. So that makes it through my PowerPoint presentation. We'll have our next hearing next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. That's when the budget will come to y'all to be voted on, so we can get it submitted to the state. If y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer your questions. If I can't answer them tonight, I will email you or call you back with answers. But that concludes my presentation.
So what would be the problem with budgeting the entire amount of the income or some higher percentage of it than we do?
A higher percentage of the sales tax revenue.
Well, of everything in general. We budget everything extremely low, in my opinion.
Okay, all the property taxes are budgeted exactly what we received, okay? If you look at sales tax revenue is budgeted a little more than what we actually received. Is it budgeted for that additional amount we get for the sales tax lawsuit? It is not. We don't budget that because usually I could budget that. I guess we could budget that and put it inside the capital projects fund, so it would be there at the end of the year if we wanted to do that. You know, I guess when it first started, when we first started doing this, you all know that even in my first world and in this world, I've taught revenues low, expenses are a little higher, and you hope to hit that. So if y'all look at expenses for this year, when I bring the financials each month, we're on target with expenses. If we're 75% of the way through the year, our expenses are running 74.6 or right at 75%. Expenses are right where they need to be. Our revenue, I mean, I can't budget for the state revenue for the advancement of technology. We have no idea.
Why?
Because they don't announce, the legislature has to meet each year, and they decide when they meet on in the year after the fiscal year starts whether they're going to fund advancement of technology or not. There's no
We're saying
guarantee.
we're only gonna budget known numbers?
No numbers is what we
Because
budget.
That's not a budget.
Well,
That's known numbers.
If
right?
I send a budget to the state that has a guess of advancement of technology money, they will send me back an edit and tell me to take it out. I won't be allowed to leave that money in because that's not known money yet, and that's what they tell you. So yes, it's a budget, but on some things they tell me you can only budget what is known. That's why they send me the state sheet and say this is known money, this is what you budget. If I send it down there and it doesn't equal, they will send it back to me.
There were several years, where we knew there was a lot of money in investment technology funds at the state, and it did not, it was like 2 years probably, it didn't trickle down to us. So there's really no guarantee that we're going to get any money until they meet in their session.
You know, if you remember one year, they had told us how much advancement in technology they thought we were going to get, and then they cut it in half. We never got it.
I think there's been years where you had, whatever it used to be called when they didn't fund it. What's that term?
Yeah, where they cut the.
Yeah, well, they cut all your funding, right?
No, that wasn't.
Thank you.
Proration hadn't happened since I've been here, but
I
cutting the
understand, but
advancement
there
of
have been years
technology,
where that did
yeah,
happen.
that did
My
happen
point is
before
you have
me.
to make adjustments when things don't happen the way you think they will, but we budget extremely low. We just did a budget amendment that increased our total revenue by almost 15%. That's what.
Which that 15% was the advancement in technology money.
It was certainly a lot of it.
It was a lot of the money. It was
Federal money.
It was 17 million.
72% off. The
Federal money is usually going to be,
72%.
yeah. Federal money is sometimes going to be off based on the allocations and how you receive those during the year. I have to, all they'll let me put in federal is what they're going to give us. And if there's carryover money, then when I go back and do a budget amendment, I add the carryover money to the federal. So that increases it to a % higher, like what you're saying, because I have to put close to $1 million in carryover in it for each of the departments. Now this year, we've been told spend the money, don't have carryover. So hopefully we won't see that increase in federal money because there won't be any more to give. But sometimes during the year they give extra grants that have to go in there. But the majority of what you saw is carryover money.
So the interest earned, is it required to be in the general fund, or can we allocate it for something else?
I've always been taught it's required to be in the general fund. You could put it in the capital projects fund,
That's what I was thinking.
but we move all the other sales.
We can put it wherever we want.
It's in the general fund. If you want to put it in the capital projects fund, yes,
Yeah,
but
but then we also can get the impression there's extra money there. It's not gonna be
It's
there.
gonna be tough the way we budget to get the
I
impression
know.
there's extra money, because we don't put the revenue in there.
Question I've got is the bond we're paying off this year, I don't know how much that payment is, but what happens to the future payments from that if it had been ongoing?
the only thing we've been paying on that, I think the way that thing was set up, it was kind of backloaded when that was issued years ago, and I can go back and look at that. Basically, all we've been paying on that one since I've been here has been the interest. And then the money that has went in has gone to, they hold so much each year out of what they had. That one's hard. That one's hard and it's difficult. And that one really didn't make a lot of sense to me since it was done before me. But I know I make an interest payment on it every year. And the money's sitting at the state and they'll just pay the bond issue off. And I can get you some more information on that.
So after that's paid off, then that money, that payment amount.
We
would go
have,
to
well, it's
the general fund?
$114,000.
Okay.
That's what we've been paying the interest on it every year.
But we won't budget for the whole year, right? We'll only budget ever how much is left to pay.
Right.
Is that right?
And the only thing that's left to pay is a little over $25,000. That's it.
I'll offer a motion, we pay that off.
Yes.
For the next
Second
meeting
that.
and just zero it out.
Yes.
Just celebrate it.
Actually, I think that payment gets paid off before the end of the calendar year. So that gets, they send us a notice and we send the check. Christmas.
That could be a
You
Christmas.
can burn something, that's what we need to
Yes.
do.
Maybe
Yeah.
hand out cigars, what do you think?
Mhm.
Good,
Mhm.
absolutely. That'd make the news.
For sure.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Question to our CPA, please, CFO. How do you feel about the way the budget has organized for this year on projection versus how we're doing? How do you feel about it?
For today, I feel good about it. Cause the things we know are there. And if we know it, then it's in there. Things that are coming in the future, I don't know for certain. So like I said, the budget's always gonna be, revenue will be a little lower, expenses will be a little higher. I don't ever wanna get in the deficit position, and that's what Dr. Strauss and I talk about, you know. So I feel good about it. I mean, we got everybody's input. We always get all the departments' input. They're here, most of them are here tonight. We get curriculum input, we get CMP input, we get local school input. They're here, your local school budget. You're new, so you haven't been through that yet. You'll know next year. Special ed, all the departments have a say-so in their budget. Dr. Strauss and I sit, and I send out budgets, or my administrative assistant sends out the budget reports for me. And then we schedule times and we bring them all in. We spend a day talking to everybody to see what the needs are. And then we look at staffing numbers. I know Bill's department, they get together all the staffing. You know, we look at the numbers, we look at the units that are gonna be funded. We look at the needs of the district, cause you know, sometimes the needs are greater in some departments, in some areas, than the funds we'll receive. So that's why Dr. Strauss brings it to you guys to approve positions. And that was the part I talked to you about. There's RAISE Act money to pay for that. You know, the great thing about you guys is when ESSER went away, ESSER funds went away, we were able to keep the positions we had. We didn't let people go. There's districts that let every ESSER person go. We didn't. We kept them. So you guys have done a great job at that. We're at a good place financially right now to take care of our kids and our district.
Well, when the check writer is happy, I'm happy.
If you guys could see the volume of things that comes through, that actually, I guess since I started to today, it's like unfathomable the amount of things that come through as far as requisitions. If we cut requisitions off and I say, okay, on this day, we've got to cut it off for the fiscal year, unless it's an emergency, there is stacks and stacks of requisitions to sign, and Dr. Strauss and I have to sign them all and go through them. So you have to do that. It's fun. I love what I do. So
Thank God.
I'm glutton for punishment, I guess. It's rewarding to see the kids and to see them get to them make gains, and we do things for them. And we've got great people. So
Any other questions, comments from the board? Good, Mr. Young.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Item 7, discussion approval of personnel actions. Do I hear a
6.
motion? Did I skip 6? I apologize. Item 6, consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Hello?
Mr. Young offers a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Kilgore seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Item 7, discussion approval of personnel action items. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Dr. Maples offers a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll
Hearing seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Passes unanimously. Item 8, adjournment. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Dubois offers the motion, Dr. Maple second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
Brown baby before it get cold for the rest of the road.
Yeah, I mean, I hope nothing.
This is my thing.
Look like that.
That extra money, I think we should allocate for something.
Good.
Okay, where
We
you
home
want to
about
put it?
715.
I think capital, well, I think it's debt. I want to get rid of
Pay
debt.
off debt is always great.
Pay off debt.
There's your data. You can look at it. See if we increase
Yes.
it here, and we don't budget.
Next week.
the amount
We budget partial.
what happens to that money if we're
And
paying